Okay, so today we are diving into something pretty wild. A new financial market simulator. They're calling it Mars.
Yeah, this is a big one.
And before anyone says, this isn't for me, I'm not some Wall Street hotshot, trust me, this thing has the potential to impact everyone from like seasoned investors to people who are just starting to learn about the markets.
Absolutely. And the really cool thing about Mars is that it's not just some surface level tool. It like really gets into the nuts and bolts of how markets actually work.
Okay, so how do we even start to unpack that?
We got a couple of sources for this deep dive. First up, how Mars is different, which is a great place to start. And then the real meat and potatoes, the actual research paper. And get this, it's called Mars, a financial market simulation engine powered by generative foundation model.
Whoa, okay. Generative foundation model. That sounds intense. Is this like those AI art generators that everyone and their grandma is talking about?
You're totally on the right track.
But instead of landscapes and portraits, it's spitting out stock prices. Is that what we're talking about here?
Exactly. Remember how those AI image generators learn from like tons and tons of image data to create something new? Well, Mars does something similar, but with financial data. It basically eats up massive amounts of historical trading data. It's on actual buy and sell orders to really understand the DNA of market behavior.
So hold on, it's not just crunching numbers based on some pre-programmed formulas. It's actually learning from real-world data.
Yeah, and get this, the research actually shows that the more data you feed Mars, the better it gets at replicating these really specific nuances of market behavior.
Wow, so the more it learns, the smarter it gets.
Basically,
Yeah.
it's like the difference between learning to play chess from a book versus playing against thousands of opponents. The experience, the depth of understanding, that's what sets Mars apart.
So we've got this supercomputer that thinks like the market.
hmm
What are the researchers actually doing with it? The overview mentioned predicting stock trends. Are we talking like a crystal ball for investors?
Not a crystal ball exactly, but pretty close. The researchers found that Mars is seriously good at identifying trends and like actually anticipating how the market might move. They even tested it against this well-known model called Deep Lob,
Okay.
and Mars crushed it.
Wow, seriously?
Yeah, it significantly outperformed Deep Lob in forecasting stock prices.
So hold on, it's not just mimicking the past, it's identifying patterns and then using those patterns to predict what might happen in the future. How is that even possible?
It all comes down to the massive amount of data it's trained on and its super sophisticated algorithms. Think of it this way. Imagine you spent years studying every move of a master chess player. You'd start to anticipate their strategies, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Mars is doing something similar, but with market data. It analyzes historical trends, understands how different factors interact, and uses that knowledge to kind of paint a picture of what might happen.
Okay, so it's not seeing the future, but it's making incredibly educated guesses based on its deep understanding of the past.
Exactly. And that's incredibly valuable for anyone who's trying to navigate the market.
For sure, for sure. I was just going to say this sounds almost too good to be true. So predicting trends is one thing, but the overview also mentioned that Mars can spot market manipulation.
Oh yeah, that's a big one, because Mars developed such a deep understanding of what normal market behavior looks like. It can detect those little red flags, those anomalies that suggest something shady might be going on.
So it's like a lie detector for the market.
Exactly. And to test this, the researchers had Mars simulate periods of known market manipulation, like specific cases. And guess what?
What happened? Did it like set off alarm bells?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Its performance actually dropped during those simulations, which tells us it was picking up on the unusual activity even without being told, hey, look for this.
Whoa. So it's like it knows when something is off, even if it can't explain why. It's like has a gut feeling.
It's more about recognizing patterns and deviations from those patterns. But you're right, it highlights the potential of Mars as a tool for, say, like regulatory bodies to make sure markets are fair and transparent.
That's incredible. Not only can this thing potentially predict market trends, but it could also help to keep everyone honest. So what else can it do? Can it write my grocery list?
Oh, maybe not your grocery list, but it can do something almost as cool.
Okay, I'm listening.
It can act as a training ground for AI trading agents.
Wait, are we talking about AIs learning to trade against each other in this like virtual stock market?
Exactly. Imagine AI learning to navigate the complexities of the market, not in some simplified model, but in a hyper-realistic simulation that mirrors the real deal.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. So we're talking about AI learning to trade like Wall Street hotshots.
Well, not exactly overnight.
Mm-hmm.
The researchers created this basic AI agent and set it loose in the Mars environment with a simple goal: buy a large chunk of stock at the best possible price.
Okay, and how did it do?
So it didn't become a financial guru overnight. But what's really interesting is that it started to learn and improve over time. It even started outperforming a pre-programmed trading strategy called TWAP, which stands for time-weighted average price.
Time-weighted average price. Got it. So the AI is learning and adapting within this hyper-realistic environment. That's got to have huge implications for the future of trading, right?
Absolutely. It opens up a whole new world of possibilities in terms of how we understand and interact with financial markets. Imagine using this to develop crazy sophisticated trading algorithms or tensing investment strategies in a completely risk-free environment, or even using AI to create more stable and efficient markets overall.
This is seriously mind-blowing stuff, but with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Right.
What are the potential downsides to all of this?
That's the million-dollar question, and definitely one we need to explore. While the potential benefits of Mars are huge, we can't ignore the potential risks and challenges, especially when we're talking about AI's growing role in finance.
Right, like what could go wrong?
Well, that's a conversation for part two.
Okay, so where do we even begin to unpack the potential downsides of something like Mars?
Well, I think it's important to remember that any technology this powerful can be used for good or for bad.
Right, like a hammer can build a house or it can.
Exactly. It's like the internet. It's connected the world in amazing ways, but it's also opened up a whole can of worms with misinformation and cybercrime. Mars has that same kind of double-edged sword potential.
Okay, so let's talk specifics. What are some of the potential downsides of a tool like this?
Well, one big concern is misuse.
Yeah.
Like, what if someone with bad intentions got their hands on this technology?
Okay. Yeah, that's a scary thought.
They could potentially use Mars to create these incredibly sophisticated trading strategies that exploit loopholes in the market, or even manipulate it for their own gain.
So instead of making the market more fair and transparent, it could actually give a small group of people even more power.
Exactly. It's like giving a loaded weapon to someone who's already got a lot of power and influence.
Yeah.
It really underscores how important responsible development and implementation are. It's not enough to just create this technology we have, to be thinking about ethical guidelines, safeguards, regulations, all of that, to make sure it's used for the right reasons.
Okay, so those are all important safeguards, but are the people who created Mars actually thinking about these ethical implications?
Absolutely. In their research paper, they actually spend a lot of time talking about the responsible use of AI in finance. They emphasize that Mars shouldn't replace human judgment, especially when it comes to making decisions that have real-world consequences.
Which makes sense because at the end of the day, it's still humans making those decisions, right?
Hmm.
And we've all seen what happens when algorithms have too much control, like that whole flash crash thing a few years ago that was not pretty.
Exactly. And that's why the researchers are pushing for a more collaborative approach, where AI like Mars is used to help humans make better decisions, not make decisions for us.
So it's all about finding that balance, using the power of AI, but not letting it run the show.
Precisely. And that brings us to another important aspect of Mars: its potential as a tool for regulators and policymakers.
Okay, so how does Mars fit into that world?
Imagine being able to test the impact of new financial regulations or policies before they're actually put into practice. Mars could give regulators a way to run simulations, explore different scenarios, and make more informed decisions.
So it's like a flight simulator for financial policy. They can practice different scenarios and see what happens.
Exactly. It could make regulation more proactive and less reactive, which could lead to a more stable and resilient financial system for everyone.
Okay, that's a really interesting point. So we've talked about regulators and policymakers, but what about individual investors like me? How could something like Mars benefit me?
I'll give you one word: backtesting. Remember how we talked about how Mars can basically rewind and replay market history with incredible accuracy?
Yeah.
Well, imagine being able to test your own investment strategies against that historical data within the Mars environment.
Hold on. So instead of putting my money at risk in the real market, I can see how my strategy would have performed under different historical conditions.
Exactly. It's like a risk-free training ground for investors. You can try out different approaches, see what works and what doesn't, all without risking your own capital.
That sounds incredibly useful, especially for someone who's just starting out. No more learning the hard way.
It could really democratize access to the kind of sophisticated tools and analysis that used to be only available to big-time investors.
Okay, I'm liking this more and more, but
Okay.
with all this talk about simulations and virtual markets, it makes you wonder what happens to the human element. Will we all be replaced by algorithms eventually?
It's a question a lot of people are asking. And the truth is, the future of finance is probably going to involve a complex interplay between human expertise and AI capabilities.
So it's not humans versus machines, it's about finding ways for them to work together effectively.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be having these conversations now while the technology is still developing. We need to be thinking critically about how we want to integrate AI into finance in a way that benefits everyone.
It's about making sure that as AI gets more advanced, our understanding of its capabilities and limitations keeps pace,
Mhm.
and figuring out how to use its power responsibly.
Exactly. And speaking of harnessing power, there's another interesting aspect of Mars that I want to bring up. Its ability to replicate what are known as stylized facts in financial markets.
Okay, stylized facts. I'm going to need you to break that down for me. Stylized
Yeah.
facts. I'm going to need you to break that down for me.
Okay, so think of stylized facts as like these recurring patterns that we see in financial markets. For example, periods of high volatility tend to cluster together, or asset prices tend to move back towards a long-term average over time. They're not like hard and fast rules, but they're these observed tendencies that have held true historically.
Okay, so like the market's version of the laws of physics, but for money?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And just like physicists try to build models that align with those laws, financial researchers try to create simulations that accurately reflect these stylized facts. And that's one of the things that makes Mars so impressive.
So it's not just spitting out random numbers, it's actually following these kind of like hidden rules of the market.
Exactly. The researchers did a ton of testing to see how well Mars's simulations matched up with real-world market data. And the results were really amazing. It consistently replicated these stylized facts, which gives us even more confidence in its ability to help us understand how markets work.
Okay, so it's like it's not just making things up as it goes along, it's actually following the underlying principles of the market,
Yeah,
which makes its predictions and insights that much more valuable, right?
absolutely. And that brings up a really interesting question about Mars. What kind of impact could it have on the way financial markets are structured?
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, if we have a tool that can accurately simulate how markets behave and maybe even predict trends, could we use it to design markets that are more stable, more efficient, maybe even more equitable?
That's a huge question. We've talked about the potential for misuse, but what about the potential for like positive change? Could Mars actually help create a fairer financial system?
It's definitely possible. I mean, one of the biggest problems in markets right now is information asymmetry, where some people have access to better information than others.
Right, like with insider trading or just having better resources for research and analysis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what if tools like Mars were available to everyone? It could level the playing field by giving everyone the ability to really analyze markets, test their strategies, and make better decisions.
So instead of everyone trying to beat the system, we could use Mars to actually understand it better and maybe make the whole thing less risky for everyone.
That's the idea. Of course, technology alone can't fix everything. Human behavior is always going to be a factor.
Yeah, greed and fear and all that fun stuff. But even if Mars can't predict every twist and turn in the market, it seems like it could be a really valuable tool for managing risk more effectively.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to be having these conversations now as this technology is being developed. We need to figure out how to integrate tools like Mars into the financial world in a way that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
I completely agree. Knowledge is power, and the more we understand about those new technologies, the better prepared we'll be for the future of finance.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And speaking of the future, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. We've talked about how Mars can simulate past markets and explore potential futures. But what if we took it a step further? What if we used it to imagine completely new financial systems?
Okay, now you've got my attention.
Systems that are more resilient, more equitable, and really reflect the values we want to see in the world.
So instead of just trying to predict or game the current system, we could actually use Mars to build something entirely new.
Exactly. Mars gives us this incredible opportunity to rethink the very foundation of our financial systems. It's a reminder that the future of finance isn't set in stone. We have the power to shape it with the help of AI, human ingenuity, and a commitment to doing things the right way.
That's a really powerful thought. And that wraps up our deep dive into the world of Mars, this incredible financial market simulator that has the potential to change everything.
We've covered its groundbreaking technology, its potential benefits, and of course, the ethical considerations we need to be aware of.
As we move into this new era of AI and finance, it's up to all of us to make sure we're using these tools responsibly to create a more informed, more efficient, and more equitable financial system for everyone. That's it for today, but keep those minds curious, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.